To answer your first question, it was people of color in mind, right? I had such a limited scope of feeling different. For me in the wellness space, I'm like, oh, I'm a black woman. There's nothing created for me. I don't see myself. So
we're not people of color either. Color in Black's Law Dictionary, an appearance, semblance, or simulacrum as distinguished from that which is real. A prima facie or apparent right, hence a deceptive appearance, a plausible, assumed exterior concealing a lack of reality, a disguise.
I feel welcome there. Like, my peers feel welcome there. Like, young black professional women that are making six figures feel welcome there, right?
You can't use to be out black. It means dead. Legally.
Yes, sir.
Why did Private Walker violate the racial code?
Because he's a soldier in the U.S. military, sir. They violated his right as an American.
Private, he's a Negro in Houston, Texas. He has no rights.
What would happen with apportionment, but you were absolutely right. Ever since the 14th Amendment, all people in the United States have been counted. Women, children, blacks, non-citizens, etc.
Okay, I know I'm not tripping. Maybe I'm tripping, but he know what he was about to say, but he caught himself, and then he stopped. This is 2018 in the United States of America, and they still technically think of us black people as slaves, but you know they try to keep it under wraps. So
no black man can live without the white man.
What are you talking about?
You are my slave.
Look at the resources.
This guy's you're a mad guy, man. So are you. So are you. You can't live without the white man. You're that stupid. Yeah. You can't literally take responsibility for your own self-sufficient life. You're that stupid, you're that useless. That's what Africa's fucked, because of people like you. My question was, did you hear what Kanye West said?
I thought your question was
what Kanye West said.
What are black people
So refute what he said.
What do you mean refute what he said?
What did he say? That black people had a choice to be enslaved.
And that's why we...
Do you hear about slavery for 400 years? For 400 years? That sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all? You know, like... It's like we're mentally in prison. I like the word prison because slavery.
But you know what? When Malcolm X would say so-called white man, so-called black man, so-called, that means something to me because it is a so-called. That's a name. That's names we've been given by whoever didn't care anything about us, any of us, whichever so-called we became.
Freedom, justice, and equality for the 20 million black people or so-called Negroes here in America. I have to admit that he is treated with more respect and he finds more dignity there than he will find among the so-called Negroes who profess to be teaching love for everyone.
You've referred to the Negroes as the so-called Negroes. You find some fault with this description,
yes.
I gather.
Mr. Muhammad teaches us that Negro is a term that was applied to us during slavery by the slave master. And right today, it's a term that is used only to point out the descendant of slaves. It's never used for black people, period. Africans can come to this country. They aren't called Negroes. And if they are called Negroes, they resent it. So if Negro meant black, as we've been taught, it would be a term that would be applicable to or applicable to everyone. But he says that it is something that means a slave or something it means something that has been left out of society, politically, economically, educationally, and otherwise.
You don't think of it as an anthropological term?
Definitely. It's not an anthropological term. It's a slave term. And it was a term that was invented in America and was used by the slave makers, slave traders, and slave masters and attached to the property or the chattel or merchandise that our people represented in that particular day.
Hey. But first, I would like to congratulate and give praise to the Negro, so-called Negro leaders and so-called Negro organizations. And excuse me if I say so-called, it's hard for me to just outright say Negro when I know what that word Negro really means.
Honorable Malcolm X said, we suffer from political oppression, economic exploitation, and social degradation. I believe for us to end our political oppression, we need political unity. This is a healthy debate, but I think we're approaching it too micro and not enough macro. I believe if we're going to unify, we got to unify first around nationality. So my question is, Tip knows this, we spoke about it in your race outside my office. Tamika knows this and spoke about this for years. Puff, we want to bring this to you. We need a black vote day. Not a vote day about Democrat or Republican. We need to vote about who we are as a people. Are we Africans in America? Are we Pan-Africans? Are we Moors? Are we Nation of Islam? Who is our nationality? What is our flag? What is our constitution? What are our bylaws? What are our values? And so what I'm saying to the panel is us as leaders, can we be that intentional, Mike, about burning down both the master's houses, focusing on our own house, galvanizing all of our leaders in one place at one time to vote on our nationality, our flag, our values, and have a black vote day in real life? Can we do that?
I think it would be helpful. I do. Because I think there's a lot of conversation right now around reparations and so on and so forth. But as I have been enlightened by Brother Jay Morrison, we can't get reparations because we haven't been officially classified as a nationality. African American is not a nationality. Black is not a nationality. So you can't give reparations to people who don't have an official nationality, a flag, a constitution, and you have a seat at the UN. You know what I'm saying? So when people ask me about reparations, I'm like, well, that's kind of putting the cart before the horse. So I understand the importance of that.
But many of us as black people today, we're very foolish people. Right. Because we don't understand why another man gives you his name. Because when he gives you his name, the giving of another's name denotes possession. It means he owns you. As long as you're walking in another man's name, he knows he owns you. You can talk as strong as you like. Yeah, I'm for black, Mrs. White. Yeah, they're laughing at you because they know that when you take another's name, that's why in marriage, in the tradition of marriage, the woman takes the man's surname. Go ahead. And leaves her maiden name because that taking of the other's name denotes possession. In the event of divorce, you don't walk around with the other man's name. You now relinquish that name because you're no longer with that one.
Later for America. What has America done for me? Nothing, but made me a zombie. I don't know who I am. I try to act like somebody else. No name, no language, no culture. Got our women acting like some Aunt Jemimas, Buellas, Sapphires. Got our men acting like second section, Manti Molin, Willie Betts, and some Rochesters. What has America done for me? Nothing, but made me a zombie. Took away my uncle life, gave me some groceries, some dead white man hanging from it, teaching us about Mary had a little lamb. Mary was white, the lamb was white, and what about old Snow White? Old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard to give her poor dog a bone. I lied. She gave the dog a steak and gave the bones to Negroes. Neck bones, pig feet, ham hocks, chitterlings, guts. Made us gut eaters, whiskey consumers, dope users, Uncle Tom niggas. That's what America done for me. Made me a robot, a Frankenstein,
White America had elevated specific black people over others. They were used not as an example of the strength and capacities of black people, but as something that separated these individuals from the otherwise savage race.
I need your help. When we go to court, I need you to speak.
This man is black. We can all see that. But can we also see as easily that which is equally true? That he is the only true hero in this room. Now, if he were white, he wouldn't be standing before this court, fighting for his life. If he were white and his enslavers were British, he wouldn't be able to stand. So heavy the weight of the medals and honors we would bestow upon him. Songs would be written about him. The great authors of our times would fill books about him. His story would be told and retold in our classrooms. Our children, because we would make sure of it, would know his name as well as they know Patrick Henry's.
It is not discussed in the film, but at the trial of the Amistad, Cinque's head was examined. This was an exercise done within the field of phrenology, a field later discredited for lacking any scientific rigor. The phrenologist provided the following description of Cinque. The head is well formed, and such as a phrenologist admires, the coronal region being the largest, the frontal and occipital nearly balanced, and the basilar moderate. In fact, such an African head is seldom to be seen, and doubtless in other circumstances would have been an honour to his race. The film places Cinque as the one strong black character into an otherwise white film, where powerful institutions are not denigrated for their support of slavery, but praised for their role in eventually stopping the system.
In the case of the United States of America versus the Armistead Africans, it is the opinion of this court that our Treaty of 1795 with Spain, on which the prosecution has primarily based its arguments, is inapplicable. While it is clearly stipulated in Article 9 that, and I quote, seized ships and cargo are to be returned entirely to their proprietary, the end of quote, it has not been shown to the court's satisfaction that these particular Africans fit that description. We are then left with the alternative that they are not slaves and therefore cannot be considered merchandise, but are rather free individuals with certain legal and moral rights, including the right to engage in insurrection against those who would deny them their freedom. And therefore, over one dissent, it is the court's judgment that the defendants are to be released from custody at once, and if they so choose, to be returned to their homes in Africa.
But to say that the film is about the end of slavery is an inaccurate portrayal of history. In reality, the court case was only concerned about the details of the slave trade, and it had no real significance to the abolition of slavery within the United States. While the Supreme Court decision in the Amistad case freed the Africans captured aboard the ship and they were sent to their home in Africa, the trial was never about abolition. In the end, the Supreme Court ruled in favour of the Africans, with only one justice dissenting. But what track record did the Supreme Court justices have in relation to court cases about slavery? Can we see them as playing a role in abolishing slavery? A majority of the justices that presided over the Amistad case were still serving on the Supreme Court when the Dred Scott decision was made in 1857. That Supreme Court decision stated that no black person, whether free or slave, could become a citizen of the United States. In the opinion of the court, the legislations and histories of the times and the language used in the Declaration of Independence show that neither the class of persons who had been imported as slaves nor their descendants, whether they had become free or not, were then acknowledged as part of the people, nor intended to be included in the general words used in that memorable instrument. They had for more than a century before been regarded as beings of an inferior order and altogether unfit to associate with the white race, either in social or political relations, and so far inferior that they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect, and that Negro might justly and lawfully be reduced to slavery. He was bought and sold, and treated as an ordinary article of merchandise and traffic whenever a profit could be made by it. This opinion was at that time fixed and universal in the civilized portion of the white race. It was regarded as an axiom in morals as well as in politics, which no one thought of disputing or supposed to be open to dispute. And men in every grade and position in society daily and habitually acted upon it in their private pursuits as well as in matters of public concern, without doubting for a moment the correctness of this opinion. The Dred Scott decision had meant that Congress did not have authority to prohibit slavery. And only one Supreme Court justice that ruled in favor of Africans in the Amistad case dissented in the case of Dred Scott. As we can see, these institutions were not abolitionist.
See, how long is this program?
This is David Cooper, a retired Wisconsin police chief with over 30 years of experience. He's been on the front line fighting for change inside police departments for years now.
Well, should we start at the slave patrols? Yeah, that was slave patrols.
Slave patrols were an organized group of armed white men who would monitor and enforce discipline upon black slaves in the 1800s.
And then that kind of morphed into Jim Crow. And it was quite obvious about whose side the police were on. I mean, there wasn't any question. If you were a person of color and you had a beef about how a white person or a store owner or somebody who treated you, forget about it. You know, you're going to jail.
Insulting to me. And after I did that, I realized, wow, I shouldn't have, I had no right to do that. That was not professional. It not only was not professional, it was not human. About a week later, another incident occurred, and I used more force than I needed. After the guy was handcuffed, I grabbed him, I pushed him up against the wall, and I said, "Don't you dare say that to me again. Do you understand?" And I realized this is a disease I'm starting to develop.
The hunt for black people, as he calls it, is part of a racist system that he condemns today. The first thing he denounces is the quota of arrest imposed on U.S. police in many large cities. This race for numbers pushes them to stop black people for no reason.
Quotas lead to arrests for no reason. Minorities have no one to call if they're wrongly arrested. The white person will call their local political committee man or person. They'll call the parents, perhaps, of a teenager, will call the local politician. "Yo, what's going on here? My child was arrested just because he didn't have his license. Why don't you just tell him to go home and get his license?" And things like, so the white person has more power. Black people have no connection to the people in power. So you know there's not going to be any blowback on arresting a minority because they don't have any power to complain.
And African Americans are not only unjustly arrested, they are not treated with the same respect as white people are.
If you stop somebody from going through a light, you would say, "Hey, out of your car. Out of your car. Show me ID." You wouldn't say that. To a white person, you would go up and say, "May I see your driver's license, please?" And blacks know that. Blacks know when you go up and say, "Hey, out of your car, now." And then they say, "Whoa, what did I do?" "Oh, what did I do? Don't say that. Don't ask me why I'm stopping you. I said get out of the car." And that's right there, your first disrespect. And I saw that happening, and blacks know it's happening. They know it's not happening to white people, so automatically they start resenting the police. Just from little verbal commands, let alone the physicality of grabbing somebody and putting them in handcuffs while you check their ID. Unfortunately, when I would tell other officers, "Whoa, that's enough," then they would think, "Hey, what are you? N for the word. What are you, an N lover?"
Since he retired, he campaigns openly against the racist behavior of the police. The former officer has even made a very explicit sign.
I'm asking police, end open season. Stop shooting black men just like they're some kind of animal.
They wouldn't do that with a white?
No.
Why?
They they devalue the black man. The black man is, well, let's put it this way. In driving down a street in Philadelphia on a hot Friday night in August, I was with a partner. And, of course, hot August night in Philadelphia, a lot of these people don't have air conditioning, and they're outside. So there's a lot of people outside on the steps in the street. And as we're riding down, my partner says, "Wow, the roaches are out tonight."
14 to 21. They must get stopped.
At the end of the month, these officers, whoever don't have that arrest or those few summonses, they're pressured to find something. You might not see nothing. You're supposed to be visible. You might not see anything, but you go hunting, like bounty hunting for an arrest. Locking up some old guy, some homeless guy, finding somebody who's riding a bicycle on the sidewalk, who's spitting, and you bring him in.
The problem is when you go hunting, when you put any type of numbers on a police officer to perform, we are going to go to the most vulnerable.
The most vulnerable.
Of course, we're going to go to LGBT community. We're going to go to the black community. We're going to go to those people that have no vote, that have no power. If we start doing what we're doing in Midtown Manhattan, a phone call to the mayor's office is going to be made. That's going to be the end of it. We're the predators, they're the prey. The worst thing you can have is a police officer that needs an arrest for the month.
So you're all minorities. How does that make you feel?
It's horrible.
This is something coming from the top that trickles its way down, and this is why we're all here today.
North Miami Beach police sniper team using the mugshots of black men for target practice. That entire department will now be investigated. And according to the mayor, George Vallejo, city and community leaders will meet Thursday morning to decide who should conduct the independent investigation.
The most important thing is that, I will never allow anything to disrupt the harmony and the goodwill that exists in our multicultural city.
Last week, city council members voted to ban the use of any images depicting real people for target practice and made a public apology. Several citizens have called for the North Miami Beach police chief to be punished or to resign in the wake of the scandal.
All right, listen. I'm gonna reach your rights real quick. All right.
In Miami, Florida, the police suspected this man, Samuel Scott Jr., stole a Jeep.
I'm telling you guys got the wrong guy. I can confirm where I was, and I can even confirm my activities. I recently logged off of the VPN at my job.
Okay. At what time?
Roughly before I came over here, before I called you guys.
Before he called you guys. That's right. You see, it was Scott whose Jeep was stolen, and he was the one who called police.
But I'm telling you, you guys got the wrong guy.
Okay. The description of the guy that took off from your car is just like yours.
But that's half of Miami, bald-headed with a beard. Or even if he had dreads, it's dreads with a beard. Okay. But then it's not fair. I mean, like I said, my kids, I called because my car got stolen. My kids are over there. They don't even know what's going on.
So what time was your car stolen?
I told you, probably around about 5. I didn't pay attention to the time. I really just jumped out of the car to go see.
He explained he was dropping his kids off at his aunt's house.
Dropped them off, came over to say hi. And I don't know what happened. Like I said, I know the people that stay across there, over here, all over the place. I don't know what happened. My car somebody jumped in, drove off. And I'm sorry, but I'm telling you, I didn't do it. I mean, literally, why would I call the police? I called because my car is stolen. How me and my kids are going to get home? My pillow, my work ID, my work stuff, all of that stuff is in there. Why would I... That's why I'm like, why am I in handcuffs?
Why was he in handcuffs? And this story took a turn for the worse before it got better. Hello, everybody. I'm David Schuster, and thanks for joining us. Despite how easy it would have been for police to confirm that it was Scott who called them and that it was Scott's car he reported stolen, the police arrested Samuel Scott anyway. They charged him with leaving the scene of an accident, false reporting of a crime, failure to carry a concealed weapons license, and possession of marijuana. Eventually, the Miami-Dade State's Attorney's Office dropped all of the charges. Still, it took a while. In the meantime, the police humiliated Scott in front of his kids and extended family. Now, 3 years later, Scott is suing the city of Miami and 5 police officers. He alleges that on that day in June of 2018, the police unlawfully searched, falsely imprisoned, and maliciously prosecuted him. And he's asking for $500,000 in damages.
Now, do you have a search warrant to be on my property?
Okay. I do not, okay?
Okay, so...
But, listen to me, all right? If you can just provide this information for me, your IDs, if you live here...
I'm not providing you nothing, man. Matter of fact, get off my property right now if you don't have a search warrant.
Sir, I'm
asking you nice.
And I was asking you nicely as well.
Hey, sir, all I'm saying, if you don't have a search warrant, paperwork to be on my property, what crime do you suspect
me of committing?
the only crime
that I have right now is y'all failure to identify.
Okay, 38.02, failure to identify. One must already be under arrest for a crime that he has committed. What crime have I committed?
Failure to identify.
No.
In another example of many in pathetic policing, these two officers show how they try to manipulate citizens to give up their rights.
That's not a crime. That only becomes a crime once one has already lawfully. Be quiet. Let me educate this one. You hear me? Let me educate him. 38.02, failure to identify, only becomes a crime when one has already been lawfully arrested for a crime. Let me give you an example, sir, since I don't know who you is.
Detained.
Huh?
And what about detained?
What am I being detained for?
You were detained because you were suspicious activity.
No.
Where they clearly game planned how this would go, but unfortunately ran into a man that does not surrender his rights so easily.
No, what penal code? You got to name a penal code that I've committed. That is the crime. Name a crime that I committed. You hear me? Name a crime that I committed other than being black and walking down this driveway.
Wilmington, North Carolina cops were caught on a police audio recording saying a new civil war was necessary to wipe black people off the map, longing to, quote, start slaughtering them and using the N-word repeatedly. Quote, I can't wait. God, I can't wait. More from a local news report on this.
Transcriptions from a video recorded on one corporal's onboard camera show these three men used racist language. Some of it so vulgar we won't repeat it on TV. Some of it is violent towards African Americans. Officer Michael Piner, Corporal Jesse Moore, and Officer James Gilmore are all being fired. The police department says these conversations were discovered internally as part of a regular monthly review of video footage. Much information is again being made public that ordinarily would not be in the name of transparency. During this afternoon's press conference, Chief Williams quoted District Attorney Ben David in saying, it's unacceptable.
I'd say this is shocking. It's just angering more than anything. But it's not shocking. This is what happens when you heavily militarize the police department, so much so that it, attracts high school bullies with racist intentions. They see themselves as an occupying force in black communities, and that's why they see it as an us versus them thing. So yeah, they're really going to serve the community when they see black people as the enemy in a civil war. I mean, it's just vile, disgusting. I'm glad that they were fired, and no police department obviously should ever employ them again. So many people harbor these thoughts, but cops have the ability to act on them. And when you, again, have a profession that allows you to play cowboy and tote a gun and get to feel really strong and put on a uniform and lord over people, specifically black people, which cops know that that's what they're able to do, and you make that the incentive structure, what do you know? You attract vile, bully racists who say things like this. More on this story from the Washington Post. Sitting in his patrol car in Wilmington, North Carolina, Officer Michael Kevin Piner predicted Black Lives Matter protests would soon lead to civil war. I'm ready, Piner told another officer, adding that he planned to buy an assault rifle. We are just going to go out and start slaughtering them effing N-words, he said. Wipe them off the effing map. Piner said, Jesus, African Americans, that'll put them back about 4 or 5 generations. Piner, a Wilmington police officer since 1998, began the recording by expressing his fury about the ongoing protests against police brutality and racial injustice in the wake of George Floyd's death. The officer Piner was speaking to, Officer James Brian Gilmore, hired by the department in 1997, said that whites were now worshiping blacks, adding that he'd seen a video of a fine-looking white girl and this punk pretty boy bowing down and kissing their toes, whatever the hell that means. Later, while complaining about a black judge whom Moore, another officer, called an effing Negro magistrate, God damn it, Moore added, it's bad, man, because not all black people are like that. Most of them, Piner responded. 90% of them, Kevin, 90% of them, Moore said. Soon, Piner turned the conversation to his belief that the Civil War was imminent and his intention to buy a high-powered weaponry. After saying he was ready to slaughter black people, he added, God, I can't wait.
The department this morning is investigating an officer caught on video making a disturbing statement. We only kill black people. Yeah, we only kill black people, right? All the videos.
The Cobb County police officer who made the controversial comments to a woman during a traffic stop says he will retire, but his police chief wants to start the process to fire him. Anne-Marie Green is here with the video that could cost a veteran officer his career. Anne-Marie, good morning.
Good morning, Vlad. Well, the dashcam video that has just been released shows a traffic stop from July of last year. The woman in the video, who is white, told Lieutenant Greg Abbott that she was afraid to reach for her cell phone, and the officer's response is not reassuring.
All the videos you've seen, have you seen black people get killed?
During a traffic stop, Lieutenant Greg Abbott can be heard telling a woman that she needs to call the person who is picking her up because she's being arrested and taken to jail.
Use your phone. It's in your lap right there.
I just don't want to put my hands down. I'm really sorry.
You just look what you want.
No, I've just been wasting my videos.
But you're not black. Remember, we only kill black people. Yeah, we only kill black people, right?
No, but
you're not a father. You don't understand, my nigga. Third time. This is the third time my kids have been taken from me.
It was a domestic disturbance report.
Yelling in the hole.
And that was Patterson, New Jersey police officer Spencer Finch.
Yelling in the hole.
Get the fuck out of here. Put your fucking hands on your wrist.
That's it. We gave you a fucking chance, bro.
I gave him a chance to put his hands on me. I gave him a chance to put his hands on me.
We told you to chill out so we can solve the problems. That's it.
You didn't record him, hit me.
Please stop.
That's some bitch ass shit, bro. That's some bitch ass shit, my nigga.
Stop resisting, Brandon.
I'm not resisting, yo.
Just relax, please.
That's some bitch ass shit, yo.
Brandon, please relax.
Yo, you saw him punch me in my shit.
Turn around.
Relax.
You saw him punch me in my shit, dog.
With the man in handcuffs, Finch did this.
Look me in my eye, little nigga.
No, please stop.
Spencer Finch has now been suspended without pay and charged with 4 felonies: assault, possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose, misconduct, and filing a false police report. In Fort Myers, Florida, the surveillance video shows Jack Rodeman, 16 years old, texting his girlfriend that he was outside her door. Her family had given him permission to be there, but the Florida state trooper thought he was a thief. Rodeman fell down hard, hitting his head on the bricks.
Put your hands behind your back. I'm gonna do it again.
And he did it again, while the biracial teenager was on the ground squirming in pain and posing no threat. Christina Rodeman, Jack's mother, believes race played a role.
He was totally profiled. That cop turned around and followed him back that direction.
When you say profiled, what do you mean?
It's a black kid in black clothes.
By the time Rodeman's girlfriend came out of the house, he was already in handcuffs. The trooper has been identified as George Smirnios. In the arrest report, Smirnios said he followed Rodeman into the backyard because the teen looked suspicious. The trooper alleges Rodeman darted into the bushes and that his behavior appeared to be of a burglar.
I just think he should have called for somebody else for backup. But I mean, his life wasn't at risk. My son wasn't fighting him. I mean, Jack looked totally calm. He shouldn't have done that to my kid. I mean, his girlfriend's traumatized, the mom's traumatized, I'm traumatized.
Rodeman was holding both hands on his cell phone, texting his girlfriend and explaining to the trooper, or at least trying to explain, that his girlfriend lives at the residence and was heading outside to meet him. All the trooper needed to do was wait 30 seconds. Instead, this trooper put his own ego and power first. It is sickening.
Places like Missouri. So let's go to this video.
I know he can't do that. He stick the dog on him. God damn. Don't let the dog bite him.
I'm recording it.
That's like a dog. Lord have mercy. That's sad.
You heard?
Oh my God. Are you serious?
So that happened in Missouri, and it is footage of 3 police officers allowing a dog to bite and to drag to the ground a man who was being put under arrest, who police say was somehow resisting. Now, you guys can rewind that, watch it as many times as you need to see where the resistance took place. I honestly have seen it a lot and cannot find where he is resisting arrest. So that was the Woodson Terrace Police Department, who said they were called on September 20th after reports of a man trespassing at a business in the Woodson Terrace. They alleged that the man was refusing to leave and threatening to kill the responding officers, and claimed that he was a sovereign citizen. They said that they warned the man, who they thought was on drugs, that if he did not comply, they would use a dog. Okay, let's break that apart. So we've got trespassing.
A Louisville police officer is facing an investigation after arresting a protester, not only in a violent way, but repeatedly punching the protester in the face as the arrest was happening. Let's take a look.
Bring your hands together now. Okay, but if I want to get back in the car, I'm going to do that. I don't even. Hey, stop hitting the bitch! Stop resisting! Stop resisting now! Stop hitting him! Put your hands behind your back! Stop hitting him! Put your hands behind your back! Put your hands behind your back! Hit him! I'm gonna stop him! I got it on camera. Stop! Stop! Hit him! You hit him. Swear to God. I'm not moving. So if they touch me, I don't give a. I got it on camera. Punching me goddamn baseball. He broke his glasses.
So to give you more context into this arrest, the citation said that the protester there, Denorver Garrett, was arrested for standing in the middle of West Jefferson Street at 6th Street holding a large cross, quote, causing a disturbance to the public and causing a safety issue to motorists. He was charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. And according to the citation, an officer delivered 2 to 3 closed hand strikes, but the video shows the officer punching Garrett at least 4 times. Garrett was released on and is scheduled to be arraigned on Wednesday, and that's according to public records. But if you don't like the way the protester was treated in Louisville, you should keep in mind that red states like Florida are passing laws, and this did just pass in Florida, that essentially allow motorists and cops to run protesters over if they're blocking the road. I'm not kidding. I'll give you the details on that in just a minute, Cenk.
Station, a cell phone recording a confrontation with cops. One man seen with his hands up.
I'm asking the officer, I said, sir, please don't shoot me. Please do not shoot me just like that.
And he couldn't believe what happened next.
When he hit me, I'm like, I still got my hands in there. I said, you know, I just got shot.
Tonight, police under fire.
Well, despite having his arms in the air, the victim was still shot by officers.
He says his nightmare did not end there. 7's Brian Enton is live with this exclusive from North Miami Police, where some are demanding answers this evening. Brian?
Belkis, not only does this man say he was shot while he was just doing his job, helping his autistic patient, but he says after police mistakenly shot him, they left him on the ground bleeding and handcuffed him. This is Charles Kinsey laying in the middle of the road with his hands in the air. North Miami police have rifles pointed at him. Listen as he tries to tell them he's a therapist, just trying to help a confused autistic man who ran away from a group home. Charles remembers the moments before he got shot.
I'm going to the ground just like this here with my hands up. And I'm laying down here just like this. And I'm telling him again, sir, it's no need for a firearm. I'm unarmed. He's an autistic guy. He had a toy truck in his hand.
He pleads with officers to back down and also tries to calm down his patient. This goes on for minutes, and then Charles says out of nowhere, a North Miami police officer shoots him.
I'm like this right here. And when he shot me, it was so surprising. It was like a mosquito bite. And when he hit me, I'm like, I still got my hands in the air. I said, no, I just got shot. And I'm standing there, I'm like, sir, why did you shoot me? And his words to me, he said, I don't know.
North Miami police say it all started when someone called 911 and said there was a man walking around with a gun threatening suicide Monday. But Charles says the gun was a toy truck. The man was the autistic patient.
I was really more worried about him than myself, because I'm looking at, as long as I got my hands up, they're not going to shoot me. This is what I'm thinking. They're not going to shoot me. Wow, was I wrong?
Charles says what police did after he was shot is what upsets him the most.
I think they got like 1, 2, 3 sets of handcuffs. They cuff my hands and they flip me over, and I'm laying on the concrete like this right here. I'm bleeding.
Day in and day out, Charles works helping the disabled. He just wants to know why the officer fired.
So grateful that he's alive and he's able to tell his story.
Every time I close my eyes, you know, it's just like I'm just seeing flashbacks.
Again, another no-knock warrant. This time it is a black Minneapolis man asleep on a sofa. This time there is body cam video that shows what happened, and yes, a warning. It's graphic.
Police search warrant! Police search warrant! Police search warrant!
Amir Locke was asleep on his couch before he's being shot and killed by Minneapolis police officers. The family attorney saying Locke has no criminal history and was not the target of the warrant. The investigation is underway now as to why Locke even was targeted in the first place. Police say he wasn't even named in the original search warrant. Joining us this morning is BNC's Justice correspondent Candace Kelly. Candace, once again, Minnesota. It would seem that after George Floyd and Daunte Wright, and now the federal trial going on, that they would be walking on eggshells, not to mention the $27 million paid out to the family of George Floyd. And here we are once again looking at a no-knock warrant in Minnesota.
Stop! Oh my God! I'm pregnant! I'm 4 months pregnant! Stop squishing my stomach! Okay, why would he be squishing my stomach like that? In my stomach? Calm down. I'm scared.
Don't worry.
Do what they ask you to do. I did nothing wrong. Just do what they ask you to do. That's it. You see my pocket, ma'am. Are you getting all of this?
Hey guys, can we just have you move to one side or the other? We can't block the exit door.
Hey, I'm sorry about that. He has some information. I know, but I didn't get it. And he has it on the paper. It's Jasmine down. I'm scared to be around you guys. Okay. I did nothing wrong. All I asked you to do was pay with the coupon, and you guys are frisking me, and you're touching my stomach when I told you I was pregnant. You told me to get my hand out of my pocket. I went like this to show you there's nothing in there. Bullshit. And you both grab me as if I did something wrong. How am I supposed to relax?
And I'm gonna stay here and watch everything.
Okay.
Look at this shit.
Jasmine, all that was is you make me nervous when you're reaching inside your pocket like that.
My hand was already in my pocket, and I told you there was nothing in here. You see, my thing is outside of my pocket. How do I make you nervous when all of you guys are with the guns, and I have nothing? Exactly. I'm 4.5 months pregnant, and you're gonna tell me you're scared of me? And you got 5 people here with guns? This is every single time. On the news, you guys see every single one of this? Because so many people get killed because y'all do that to people. Telling me that you guys are afraid of us when there's 5 different people with guns. And I have nothing. I have a baby in my stomach. All I did was ask to use a coupon. I used to pay with a coupon. And this is how far it gets taken?
We just came here. We have no idea what had happened.
Well, you guys should have known about the call before you came here. The guy even radioed and said he didn't need backup. And there's 3 different police cars here with 5 different people. I'm not relaxing.
I'm just trying to talk to you.
Just calm down. Okay. Just try. I was here from the beginning.
Do you support reparations for black people?
Well, listen, again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination, segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of black families who are in poverty.
So by default.
Recently, the city of Seattle summoned its white employees, and only its white employees, to a meeting and then informed them that their skin color is a crime. The city called this anti-racism training. Events like it are taking place all over the country right now, in schools, local governments, corporations, the military. The city of Seattle named its training session Interrupting Internalized Racial Superiority and Whiteness. Chris Rufo of City Journal wanted to know exactly what went on in a meeting like that, so he filed a public records request. Here's what he found. White employees in Seattle were informed that their so-called white qualities were offensive and unacceptable. Those qualities included perfectionism, objectivity, and individualism. The employees were told to stop exhibiting these characteristics, and instead they were ordered to undertake, quote, the work of undoing your own whiteness. In order to achieve that, in order to erase the traits they were born with, white employees in Seattle were ordered to give up the following. They were ordered to give up comfort. They were ordered to give up spending time with their family. They were ordered to give up guaranteed physical safety, control over other people and the land, relationships with some other white people, niceties from neighbors and colleagues, and, quote, the certainty of your jobs. Prepare to be unemployed, pale employees of Seattle. Your skin color disgusts us. All of that actually happened in Seattle. Check out Chris Rufo's new piece in City Journal if you want more details on it. But again, atrocities like this aren't just happening in Seattle, they're happening everywhere. Some will almost certainly happen in your kid's school this fall. No one will ask your permission before they do it. They'll just attack your children for how they were born. The people doing the attacking, by the way, would tell you with a straight face how opposed they are to gay conversion therapy because, of course, it's immoral to try to change people's intrinsic qualities. They wouldn't see the irony in that. More likely, they don't care about irony. This isn't about principles. It's about hate, humiliation, and power. It is about hurting people. It always is. Telling people they're inferior because of their skin color was wrong when it happened 60 years ago in Alabama. It is every bit as wrong when it happens today in Seattle, or at Yale, or Google headquarters, or at your kid's elementary school. Attacking people on the basis of their race is a sin. There is nothing worse for a country. They can try to disguise it with Orwellian terms like anti-racism, but this is the purest kind of race hate. It will destroy America faster than anything else. Don't put up with it. Resist. Speak out. Fight back. This is totally wrong. Until you stand up, it will continue.
The attitude towards me changed completely after I went out publicly and rejected my white classification. And gradually, I became to identify myself as black. I came to the U.S. in 1978, and I became U.S. citizen in 1985. When I became a U.S. resident, I was told by the Immigration Naturalization that I'm white. And I told them that I'm black, and they said, no, in this country, you are white. All Arabs in this country, all Arab immigrants are white. I didn't pay much attention in the beginning to this, because in the Arab world, we identify with our ethnicity first as Arabs, and then with the race second as black or white or whatever. But in this country, you identify with your racial group first and then with your ethnicity second. Gradually, I became black first and Arab second. And I rejected my white classification publicly for the first time in 1987, in February, as a panelist in a function sponsored by the Association of the Study of Black Life and History in Detroit. I said that I belong to two minority groups. I'm Arab American and Black American, and I'm racially Black and ethnically Egyptian. He said, you have nothing to do with these people. You have a history and a culture. These people came from the jungle. You have nothing to do with them. These people lie and steal. When I see one of them in my neighborhood, I call the police.
My doctor showed me my chart, and it had changed my nationality from African American or Black to white. It was because they had moved from a paper system to the online system, and my
Italian, German, Swedish, Korean, Egyptian, Nigerian, Black.
Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue. You were able to properly identify with all the groups that I called out in the countries that associates with them. But when I say Black, everyone had to look at each other and try to figure out what you was going to respond to.